Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The dust has taken a little bit longer to settle than usual after last night's European defeat. A lot of frustrations vented by myself and every Celtic fan after yet another disappointing UEFA Champions League campaign. Brendan Rodgers has rallied for more quality in the Celtic side. We're going to talk about those comments. We're going to talk about some of the transfer stories that have emerged, before and after those comments. It's going to be a big couple of months for Celtic. A lot of winning over in the support at the moment. Needs to be done. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated as we try and get towards 50,000 subscribers. It's going to be a busy few weeks here on the channel, of course. A very busy schedule for Celtic with games left, right and centre. One more Champions League game to play, a derby game at the end of December. It's going to be hectic. And then following on from that, we have got one of the most important transfer windows in the last couple of years, probably since Ange Postecoglou's arrival to the club. A massive window where a lot of changes have to be made, a lot of quality has to be brought in, and a lot of dead wood has to be shifted. Now, I was going to do a video talking about the players that we need to let go or consider letting go, but we'll save that for a little bit further down the line. Today we're going to talk about Brendan Rodgers' post-match comments, and we're going to talk about some of the players who have been linked with the club over the past couple of days, as we desperately need to strengthen this side. There's no doubt about it. Just touching on last night, listen, you could sit for hours and vent your frustrations surrounding Celtic's Champions League campaign to all areas, the team, the manager, the board. And I don't want to come on here and sound like a broken record, because all week and basically all season, it's been the same sort of sentiment that I've been giving out, and that's been my frustrations towards the Celtic board and the lack of quality we've got in this squad, the lack of backing the manager's getting. But, the more I go on about it, the more tiresome it must get for you guys listening and watching the videos. You don't want to hear the same thing off me video after video, but last night did blow into a completely different perspective, how ill-equipped we are heading into competitions like the Champions League. And we've become used to seeing Celtic as the whipping boys of Europe, quite frankly. That's what we seem to be in the competition for. I almost feel like we should be considering taking the money and giving up our spot, because there's really no point in being there. And I really feel sorry for the Celtic players and the coaching staff that need to go through it year in, year out. But sadly, there's just so many people there that aren't good enough and aren't up to the standard of the job. The problems started at the top of Celtic, and sadly they worked their way down. And there has to be changes. There has to be more ambition at Celtic Football Club. The AGM was a farce last week. I thought there was a real lack of ambition shown at that meeting when fans were demanding answers and demanding improvement. But the Celtic board seem quite content with the way the club's been run at the minute, as long as we're one step ahead of Rangers, which we have been for the past decade or so. That's the basis that we operate on. As long as we're ahead of them, it's fine. And it'll really take Rangers going and winning a league title or something for them to pull the finger out, it seems. And obviously we don't want to see Rangers winning a league title anytime soon. So there's a lot of problems at the club. A lot of them need addressed. Brendan Rodgers hasn't had away from that, and he spoke once again after last night's game on the quality that needs to be added to this Celtic side. So after the game, this was Brendan Rodgers' comments from the BBC. He said, "It's the overall quality. We need to have our very best players available going into this competition. What makes the difference is that bit of experience and genuine quality, especially at the top end of the field. That's something we can hopefully resolve over the next couple of windows. This group has gained more experience and shown they can compete in some games, but we need to add quality. That's the glaring thing that stands out." And it's something that's been incredibly evident to Celtic fans for not just the last couple of months, but for the last decade. We keep consistently going into this competition with a team that's not ready. And we've had good squads here and there. We've had some fantastic players over the past 10 years or so. But to go 15 Champions League games without a win really speaks to the lack of quality we do have. And there's so many more factors than that as well. But, you've got to simply sit down and admit that we're not good enough. That's the first and foremost factor of it all. I see people going, "Oh, well, Neil Lennon managed to get results and Martin O'Neill managed to get results." Most players that worked with Martin O'Neill, every player that worked out with Martin O'Neill would probably walk into this Celtic side. It was a much better side. Neil Lennon had some real quality in his teams. He also had some real garbage as well. But ultimately, you're looking at a team that's just not that good. And that's the honest truth. There's not enough players that can compete at the highest level. And I know people will try and convince themselves that they are. And, oh, Ange showed this and yada yada. But generally, like, you can go through our starting 11 and you can open your, if you be honest, you can hold your hands up and say, yeah, they're not good enough. They're not good enough. There's players all around the squad that are like that. There's so much deadwood. There's so many players who are at best squad players at Celtic. And we don't have the quality to compete with a Lazio or an Atletico Madrid. That's been made evident over the past 5 match days. So what needs to be done? Brendan Rodgers wants quality. It's not going to be fully addressed in January. I don't think that we're going to end the January transfer window with a completely different side, a side that's ready to step into European competition and win games. This is going to take time. This is going to take a couple of windows. But it needs to change from head to toe at Celtic. You know, it needs to change everywhere. You know, the recruitment under Mark Lawwell, I seen a worrying photo yesterday. A worrying photo, and you know, we've praised some of the signings. Some of the signings have been brilliant, you know, over the past couple of years. We've had some really good signings, but in general, you look at the list of signings that came in with Mark Lawwell, they're not much better than Lee Congerton's, and we used to give Lee Congerton it stinking. We need to stop signing players from the second division in Japan, and you know, people who've been on loan to teams in the K-League, and they've not played in games anywhere near the level of a UEFA Champions League match. The recruitment strategy at Celtic needs to change. We need experience. We need quality. These are things that will need to be addressed in the next couple of windows. The reason that Brendan Rodgers left Celtic in the first place was apparently down to problems like this, you know, recruitment and not signing the players that he wanted, etc. And we're at a real risk of that happening again. I know a lot of people in the current moment would probably love to see Brendan Rodgers going off my comment section. Not going to get started on it, but you know, we're just going through the same problems. It seems like he's going to be sitting there going, well, nothing's changed because the recruitment wasn't great in the summer. So there really needs to be action taken. He's called for it now. And I think if they realise the value of the manager they've got there, then they will need to back him. They will need to go through an adjusted recruitment process. It's for the best of this football club, but sadly, I think the problem that's always going to hold us back, you know, we get our hopes up. There's always a stage in the season, we start getting results and a couple of signings look good and we're like, okay, things are going well, and then Europe comes around and does the same thing every year. It knocks us right off our perch. Sadly, the people that are higher up in the club are going to constantly make decisions that are for the betterment of their pockets and the club's financials rather than the future and the ambition of the football club. So I don't know what to believe, but we need players. And chat has started around certain players. So many reports have emerged over the last few days, Celtic being linked with different individuals, different positions as well, in the kind of quest to improve the squad that we have at the minute. As we've already touched on, a lot of deadwood has to go. The registration places will need to be freed up, both domestically and for our next venture in Europe next season. So players will have to go, and we will cover that in a different video. However, we've got a few things coming out recently. Let's kind of go through them one by one. I will go into certain players in greater depth in other videos throughout the rest of this week and next week. I don't want to drag this one on too long, but we'll kind of go over the stories very briefly today, just so you know where we are heading into January. One of the first stories that broke over the past couple of days was from Football Insider, which, listen, if you've been watching my channel long enough, you know my opinion on Football Insider. I don't think they're reliable. I think they speak a lot of nonsense. However, it is a story that has been run by a few outlets now, and it's one that is so blatantly obvious that it should be happening anyway. So hopefully there's truth in this one, but Celtic apparently making the goalkeeper a priority in this next transfer window. This is what Football Insider put up. Celtic are stepping up plans to sign a new goalkeeper in the January transfer window, sources have told Football Insider. A priority January signing. And we obviously have, you know, we've heard a couple of names mentioned over the past 6 months. We heard the strong links with Real Madrid's Lunin as one of the options. We obviously had a lot of talk about the likes of Caoimhin Kelleher, which ain't going to happen, but he was one of the names thrown out as well. Apparently this is one of the priority areas. I think you'll see in these next couple of stories that there seems to be 3 areas really in focus for Celtic. There are 3 areas that should have been focused on in the summer transfer window and were neglected, that they're now trying to address in January. They've now realised 5 months into the season, oh wow, we need to actually improve these areas. But the goalkeeper one seems to be a position that's going to be prioritised in January. It has to be, not only because Joe Hart's form has, you know, went down If you were to put it in a chart, it has slowly depreciated over time. I shouldn't even say slowly, it's rapidly depreciated over time. He went from being incredibly important and good in his first season to someone who's become a bit of a liability. That needs to be addressed. It looks as though it's going to be addressed, even though it is my favourites at Football Insider saying it is one that's been bubbling away for months now. And if Brendan Rodgers knows what he needs, then that's one of the positions that should be right at the top of the list. Another one that's near the top of the list is up front, and we know that's one that will be and needs to be addressed. Brendan Rodgers has confirmed that himself with a comment a couple of weeks ago in a post-match press conference in regards to Owen Kyogo both being unavailable in January and February due to the Asian Cup. So we need a striker. That needs to happen. That's just logic, or we don't have one. We don't have a striker to play while they're on their international duties. So Celtic have reportedly, according to Football Scotland, stepped up their interest to sign Matthias Kvistgaarden in January, after there was also reports all over Europe that his interest is skyrocketing. Apparently multiple clubs in England, Germany, France all looking at Kvistgaarden in January. And of course this is a player that we were looking at in the summer transfer window. It didn't materialise. It was towards the end of the window, the death of the summer transfer window. But apparently Celtic set to face stiff competition, but ready to ramp up in the quest to sign him. Now, the problem with that is, back in the summer we were talking about someone who may have only cost £4 million. He would have been a good attacking option. Apparently the club now wants £7.5 million for Kvistgaarden, which is a lot of money. And we've never really, apart from Edouard, spent that big on a forward. So, will that happen? I don't know. What the main thing to take away from that story is, a striker is a priority. So, there. And finally, another area which is in desperate need of more quality, left back. Celtic are apparently pushing for Thiago Araujo in the January transfer window. 22-year-old left back from Portugal, a product of the Benfica Youth Academy, similar to Jota and Paulo Bernardo, of course. Thiago Araujo currently plays in the Portuguese top flight, but for Estoril, who he signed for in a free transfer in the summer transfer window. He's not been there all that long. Actually, I think it was 2 seasons ago. I talked nonsense. It was the start of the last season. So he's been there for a season and a half now. He moved on a free transfer at the start of the 2022-23 campaign. This season, he has racked up, I think, 15 appearances, couple of assists, couple of goals. Looks like a player of good quality. £4 million seems to be the number that's thrown around in the mainstream at the minute, but Celtic reportedly pushing. They are wanting to step up the chase for Thiago Araujo in this window. We need a left back. Listen, I've not done my deep dive on this guy yet. I don't know anything about him. I'm going to do my research later today and do a video maybe tomorrow, a bit more on him. But he seems to be the priority for the left back position at the minute. Only 22, product of a good youth academy, as we know. He seems to have good underlying numbers there as well. So he looks like a player who could be of use, but really don't know too much about him yet. The main thing is, that seems to be the areas. So Brendan Rodgers has asked for real quality across the park. He needs real quality to compete in the Champions League. Will it be Araujo? Will it be Kvistgaarden? Will it be these guys? I don't know. I couldn't tell you yes or no to that, but I think from the stories that have broken over the last week, you can take the assumption that in January we should expect to see at least a new goalkeeper, a new left back, and a new striker arriving at Celtic Football Club. Once again, just to reiterate, I don't know if it'll be any of the names that we've mentioned either in today's video or any of the videos over the past few months, but I think those 3 areas seem to be the priority for quality in this side, and areas we need. We need to sign in. We'll look at those areas at the minute. Hart, Bain, Siegrist. Siegrist needs to go. Bain's there for a registration place, and Hart's done. Left back, Taylor, not good enough, and Bernabe, who needs to go. Striker, Kyogo, amazing, love the wee guy, and bit hit or miss. So we don't have required quality and depth anyway in these positions, and they do need to be addressed. So I would expect to see players coming in these areas. We just need to wait and see what names it is. Right, that does it for today. Hopefully there is a lot more positivity that comes out of Celtic Football Club over the next month or so. I wish that the Champions League was just finished so we could concentrate on domestic action and just get things done and dusted. But hopefully that starts with the St Johnstone game at the weekend, first and foremost. So yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. keep watching because there should be daily videos over the next few months as well. But aye, thank you. Take care. I'll see you all next time.